From Robert Lewandowski to Victor Osimhen to Cole Palmer, some of football's biggest names will be watching the 2026 World Cup from home. In this video, we're breaking down the injuries, qualification disasters, and shocking decisions that kept them out. Let's go through them. Let's start at the very top with the most famous name on this entire list. Robert Lewandowski, Poland captain, and his country's all-time leading goal scorer, has hinted at his international retirement after Poland failed to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. The 37-year-old cut a dejected figure as the final whistle confirmed Poland's absence from the world stage following a 3-2 defeat by Sweden in the qualification playoff final. Think about what that means. Lewandowski has captained Poland since 2014 and remains his country's record holder for both goals and appearances, with a career tally of 89 goals in 165 international matches. 89 goals. Nearly twice as many as any other Polish player in history. And now this is likely how it ends. Not with a curtain call on the World Cup stage, but watching from a sofa as North America hosts the biggest football party the planet has ever seen. The way the final chapter nearly played out is almost too cruel to describe. Poland had been present in the finals of the last two World Cups. They twice came from behind to level it up with Sweden at 2-2. But Arsenal striker Victor Gyökeres scored the game's fifth goal in the latter stages to win it for Graham Potter's side. One goal, with Sweden already qualified as hosts' neighbors, irrelevant. This was the moment that ended a legend's World Cup dream. After the loss, Lewandowski posted a picture to Instagram showing himself holding up his captain's armband. With the song Time to Say Goodbye playing, that image ricocheted across the entire football world. It was the kind of post you don't make unless something is truly over. The failure to secure a spot in North America leaves the Barcelona striker facing the end of a record-breaking career. Without the grand finale he had sought after returning to the squad following a fallout with the former coach. With the next World Cup 4 years away, it marks a bitter chapter for the forward who has anchored the national side since his 2008 debut. Hill striker widely regarded as one of the greatest of his generation, that record is brutal. No World Cup title. And now, almost certainly, no more chances to change that. The biggest absence in terms of nations heading into the 2026 World Cup is, once again, Italy. The four-time world champions will miss the tournament for a third consecutive edition, something almost unimaginable for a nation that last lifted the trophy at the 2006 FIFA World Cup in Germany. 3 consecutive absences, for context, having gone 60 years without missing a World Cup before 2018, the Italians have now missed 3 consecutive tournaments. The country that gave the world Andrea Pirlo, Francesco Totti, and Roberto Baggio. That country is not at the World Cup. Again. The Italians fell to Bosnia and Herzegovina in penalty shootouts in their final qualifying match, despite opening the scoring from a Moise Kean goal. Just before halftime, center-back Alessandro Bastoni received a red card for tackling a Bosnian player on a breakaway. Italy was forced to play the remainder of the game with 10 men and held their own until the 79th minute, when Haris Tabakovic equalized. Penalties again. The cruelest way to go out, and Italy found themselves going out that way for the second qualification cycle running. The player who suffers most because of Italy's failure? Gianluigi Donnarumma, arguably the sole world-class talent in their current ranks, is yet to play at a World Cup finals. He's 27. He started playing on the national team when he was just 17. A decade of international football. 0 World Cup appearances. He's one of the best goalkeepers on the planet, capable of winning any match on his own. And he's never played a single minute of a World Cup. That's one of the genuine tragedies of this cycle. Italy's star players, Donnarumma, Sandro Tonali, Alessandro Bastoni, Riccardo Calafiori, Nicolo Barella, and many more, are all set to watch from home once again. That is an entire squad of elite-level talent. Any one of those names would walk into most World Cup squads. Together, they're watching Netflix in July. Now let's move to Africa, because what happened on that continent heading into this tournament involves not one but 2 enormous footballing nations. and two of the biggest names in African football right now. After Italy, Nigeria are the biggest nation to miss out on a ticket to the World Cup 2026, following an appalling qualifying campaign. The Super Eagles had dreamed of going deep in North America, but their wings were clipped after a shock penalty shootout, defeat to the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the African playoffs. Nigeria is missing its second straight World Cup, despite its stacked attacking depth. Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman are the household names, while Alex Iwobi, Samuel Chukwueze, Calvin Bassey, and Raphael Onyedika are all key contributors. But the Super Eagles lack quality in defense and in goal, eventually losing in the CAF playoff final to DR Congo, which qualified through the Interconfederation playoffs. One of the biggest names missing will be Victor Osimhen. The Nigerian striker from Galatasaray was left out of the World Cup after Nigeria's surprising playoff elimination against the Democratic Republic of Congo. Alongside him, Ademola Lookman, another of Africa's biggest attacking stars, will also miss the tournament. Let's talk about how significant that is. Osimhen has been one of the most feared strikers in world football for the past 3 seasons. He wins things with his back to goal. He wins things on the break. He wins things in the air. And this summer, he's at home. Nigeria's failure to make it to the World Cup means fans will miss out on watching Lookman, arguably their best player at AFCON 2025, and Osimhen, one of the most feared strikers in Africa. The dynamic duo has often brought joy to Nigerian fans, whose team is missing successive World Cup finals for the first time in 36 years. First time in 36 years, let that sink in. The national team of Nigeria missed the World Cup after falling to DR Congo in the African playoffs, a series surrounded by controversy following accusations inside the Nigerian camp regarding alleged voodoo practices. Yes, the off-field stories around that qualifying campaign were chaotic enough even before the defeat, and then the defeat itself came on penalties. An entire country's World Cup hopes crumbling from 12 yards. Between 1994 and 2018, Nigeria qualified for every World Cup aside from 2006, making it out of the group stage 3 times. They were runner-up in the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations and third in 2025, but Nigeria won't be in the 2026 World Cup. That record had made Nigeria fixtures as expected at the World Cup as Brazil or Germany. And now, for the second successive time, nothing. Cameroon tell a similar story. Cameroon's failure to qualify for the World Cup came as a surprise, as the indomitable Lions hold the African record for the most appearances, with 8 overall. After losing to DR Congo in the semi-finals of the African playoffs, Cameroon's World Cup dreams died, and, with them, Bryan Mbeumo's chances of playing in North America. Cameroon and Nigeria were the only African nations with any history of international football success to miss out on 2026. Fittingly, they both lost to DR Congo during the CAF playoff. DR Congo essentially single-handedly wiped out 2 of Africa's greatest football nations in the same playoff window. The stories they took down with them: Osimhen, Lookman, Mbeumo, are the stuff of genuine World Cup caliber talent. If Nigeria's absence is a qualifying catastrophe, Brazil's situation heading into this tournament is a different kind of pain because Brazil did qualify. Brazil are going to the World Cup, but the injury list that has followed them to North America borders on surreal. Brazil suffered one of the hardest blows with the loss of Rodrigo Goes. The Real Madrid attacker suffered an anterior cruciate ligament and meniscus tear during a La Liga match and was ruled out for several months. Rodrigo went down clutching his right knee during Madrid's match over Getafe. His worst fears were subsequently confirmed after undergoing scans the following day, meaning the 25-year-old will miss out on the chance for redemption after having his penalty saved during Brazil's shootout loss to Croatia in the quarterfinals of the 2022 tournament. There's a poignancy to that detail that's hard to shake. Rodrigo stepped up in Qatar 4 years ago, missed the penalty that helped send Brazil home, and now, with a chance to write a different story entirely, his knee gave way on a March afternoon in Madrid. He was second top scorer with 3 goals during what was a difficult qualifying campaign for Brazil. He wasn't just a passenger in getting Brazil here. He helped build the ship. He just won't get to sail on it. Brazil seemed to have been bitten by the injury bug more than most. with Rodrigo's Madrid teammate Eder Militão also missing. After being forced to undergo thigh surgery in April, Militão has been beset by fitness issues in recent years, most notably tearing the ACLs in both his knees in the space of 15 months, and is now set to be out of action until October. Both knees in 15 months. The body of a player who should be in his prime, broken again and again. By the sheer volume of elite football, these players are now asked to play. And then there's Estevão, one of the brightest talents in global football. The winger was set for his much-awaited World Cup debut, until a hamstring injury crushed his dream. The 19-year-old suffered a grade 4 hamstring injury while playing for his club, Chelsea, in April, which ultimately kept him out of Brazil's World Cup squad. A grade 4 injury is a full tear and can demand a recovery time of 6 months. For a teenager, for a player who hasn't even had his 20th birthday and was already being spoken of in the same breath as the greatest to ever wear the yellow shirt. That's not just missing a tournament, that's a wound that goes deeper than the hamstring. Perhaps the most disappointing of all Brazil's absentees is that of teenage sensation Estevão. Given he'd scored 5 goals in his last 6 international appearances, it's a real shame he won't be able to perform on the biggest stage this summer. This is a major issue for Brazil manager Carlo Ancelotti, who is also without Rodrigo. Estevão was a likely starter in a team that did not score freely during qualifying. Ancelotti, who just left Real Madrid to take on his dream job managing Brazil, arrives at the World Cup missing 2 of the players who were almost certain to start for him. With Estevão also an injury concern and Rodrigo gone, Brazil look light on the wings and were forced to turn to 34-year-old Neymar in response. Neymar back, because the alternatives have fallen apart. That's the state of Brazil's World Cup preparation. Brazil's injuries are painful, but across Europe, there's a different category of heartbreak. The players who played and led and gave everything they had in qualifying, only to watch their national teams fall short. One of the most feared wingers in European football, Kvaratskhelia, will not be on the plane to North America as his country, Georgia, failed to qualify for the finals. The Paris Saint-Germain winger, the standout player in the Champions League this season, is yet to play at a World Cup. He's perhaps the biggest omission from this summer's showcase. The gifted Georgian is a genuine Ballon d'Or contender after starring during Paris Saint-Germain's PSG win the Champions League. He's one of the most watched, most discussed, most electrifying footballers on the planet right now. And this summer, he's not at the World Cup. Not because he wasn't good enough, because Georgia weren't good enough around him. There's a loneliness to that kind of excellence. Then there's Dominik Szoboszlai, partnering Tonali in our imaginary lung-busting midfield partnership. Of non-qualifiers is Hungary's Szoboszlai. The Liverpool midfielder was head and shoulders above his teammates for much of the 2025-26 campaign, but was unable to captain the national side to World Cup qualification. His Liverpool teammate, Dominik Szoboszlai, did not qualify with Hungary. He performed. He showed up. The team didn't, and now one of the Premier League's most dynamic midfielders is absent from the biggest competition of the year. Other European stars who failed to qualify include Kvicha Kvaratskhelia with Georgia, Benjamin Sesko with Slovenia, and Rasmus Højlund with Denmark. Let's talk about Rasmus Højlund for a second, because Denmark's story deserves more attention than it's getting. Denmark also failed to qualify to outlast Czechia in the March qualifying playoffs, eventually falling in a penalty shootout. Denmark was supposed to be a dark horse in 2022, but underwhelmed, and the signs had been brewing. Højlund, Manchester United's young striker, who has spent the last 2 seasons trying to establish himself as one of Europe's elite, watches the tournament from home. Same story as so many others on this list. Brilliant player, wrong country, wrong moment. One country that notably did escape the heartbreak was Norway. Led by stars Erling Haaland and Martin Odegaard, the duo finally makes their mark on the world stage, Norway are going, which makes Denmark's failure sting even more. Their Scandinavian neighbors scraped through, and they didn't. And Benjamin Šeško of Slovenia. Slovenia has not qualified for the World Cup since 2010. Šeško, a 6'5" speedster who could become the next big thing in his position, is another elite-level striker who will spend July watching others lift trophies. The talent is there. The national team infiltrated the last realistic chance for 37-year-old Alexis Sanchez of Chile, who will still retire as a legend for his country after playing key roles in winning the Copa America in 2015 and the Copa America Centenario in 2016. Chile finished last in qualifying in South America. They didn't come close to qualifying for the 2026 World Cup, a generation that was once one of South America's most feared. Sanchez, Vidal, Bravo, scattered, aged, and now entirely absent from the planet's biggest stage. That era is over. Some players on this list are absent because their nations didn't qualify. The entries in this section are different. These are players whose nations are at the World Cup, who were almost certain to be on the plane, and who had everything ripped away by injuries at the worst possible moment. Attacking midfielder Xavi Simons will not be with the Netherlands at the World Cup 2026. After suffering an anterior cruciate ligament injury while playing for his club, Tottenham Hotspur against Wolverhampton Wanderers in a Premier League game, Simons was expected to be a key figure in Ronald Koeman's Netherlands squad for what would have been his second World Cup. After his debut in 2022, he had earned 34 caps, most recently featuring in friendlies in March. ACL injuries don't just take months, they take an entire identity away for a while. The burst of speed that defines your game, the instinctive acceleration that makes you dangerous, all of it replaced by rehabilitation, ice, and physio tables. Simons is 23, he'll recover. But there's a version of the 2026 World Cup that had him orchestrating the Netherlands attack that we simply won't get to see. France forward Ekitike's dreams of making his World Cup debut were shattered when he ruptured his Achilles tendon while playing for Liverpool against PSG in April. At the start of the 2025-26 season, Ekitike was far behind in the France pecking order, but an impressive season at Liverpool, which saw him score 17 goals in all competitions until his injury, had put him in the running to be picked by coach Didier Deschamps. He earned his way in through goals, through form, through a season that had people re-evaluating him completely. And then in a Champions League quarterfinal against PSG of all clubs, his Achilles gave way. A serious Achilles tendon injury sustained in April ended his season and ruled him out of action until the early months of 2027. Gone until 2027. His first World Cup will have to wait. Serge Gnabry, a player who has been at the highest level of international football for years with Germany, is another one struck down by injury. The Bayern Munich winger tore the adductor in his right leg, and as he himself announced at the end of April, will not recover in time for the World Cup. Germany are in this tournament. Germany will compete, but they'll be doing it without one of their most experienced and explosive wide options, and that matters. Spain have suffered from injuries too, with the most notable absentee on that front being Fermin Lopez. At the end of a season in which he produced 30 combined goals and assists, the Barcelona midfielder suffered a broken foot that required surgery. 30 combined goals and assists in a season, that is elite-level output at one of the world's biggest clubs. And it was all rendered irrelevant in an instant by a metatarsal fracture in a league game. Porto striker Samu Agehawa, meanwhile, suffered a torn ACL in February. Spain are one of the favorites to win this tournament, and they're arriving without two players who were delivering some of their best football of the season right up until their injuries. Kaoru Mitoma, arguably Japan's best attacker, will be a significant miss for a side with potential to give the elite nations trouble. The 29-year-old left winger tore his hamstring late in the Premier League season with Brighton and had to be omitted. Fellow forward Takumi Minamino is out with a torn ACL. Japan were one of the most exciting stories of the 2022 World Cup. Two of their best attacking players won't be there to write the next chapter. And then there's England, Because this section of the list doesn't involve injuries, doesn't involve qualifying failures. This section involves a national team coach making decisions that have genuinely shocked the football world. Ivan Toney, John Stones, and Jordan Henderson will all be heading to the World Cup this summer. After Thomas Tuchel confirmed his squad with the 26-man list leaving out the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Phil Foden, and Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer. Phil Foden. Trent Alexander-Arnold. Three of England's most technically gifted players, all at home. Sky Sports News' Kaveh Solhakel described the squad as probably the most shocking since 1998. Let's start with Palmer. The Chelsea forward missed almost 3 months of last season with a groin injury that reduced his impact, and he finished with just 11 goals and 3 assists in all competitions. Despite his difficult club season, Palmer's absence from the England squad is a surprise due to his ability and track record of delivering on the big occasion, scoring in the Euro 2024 final and the FIFA Club World Cup final for Chelsea against Paris Saint-Germain. Think about that track record. When the biggest matches arrive, Cole Palmer scores. Euro final, Club World Cup final. He has the gene that makes players enormous in tournaments specifically. He hasn't had the same caliber of season as his first 2 at Chelsea, and he has suffered with Chelsea's form plummeting. He's not scored in his past 8 matches. But the questions about whether Tuchel has left a decisive talent at home will hover over England's whole campaign. Then Phil Foden. If you'd said 2 seasons ago that Phil Foden would miss out on England's World Cup squad, people would have said you were mad. Foden was the Premier League's finest talent in 2023-24 and PFA Player of the Year, but he's been unable to reach those highs since. Thomas Tuchel has admitted he does not know Foden's best position, a recurring problem for England managers, and so Foden, the player who was arguably the best in England's top flight just 12 months ago, is watching the tournament instead of playing in it. Both Foden and Palmer were the most high-profile absentees, but have had below-par club campaigns with Manchester City and Chelsea respectively. And Trent Alexander-Arnold. Alexander-Arnold's international career has never truly taken off, with both Gareth Southgate and Thomas Tuchel failing to trust the Real Madrid right-back. He's a unique talent, but one at risk of being wasted by the Three Lions. He's another bold omission, albeit a more predictable one, having not won a cap since last summer. His move from Liverpool to Real Madrid was supposed to announce him on the world stage. It didn't quite land as expected, and now England have gone to a World Cup without him. On the absence of Palmer, Foden, Maguire, and Alexander-Arnold, Tuchel said, "Difficult phone calls. I respect all of them. As players, personalities, all of them have been in camp, have been excellent. To reduce it was difficult, sometimes painfully difficult." Furious Maguire posted on social media he was shocked and gutted to miss out. Harry Maguire, who has missed out on a 3rd successive World Cup with England despite enjoying a fine season at Old Trafford, that earned the 33-year-old a new contract at the club. He played well, he earned a new deal. He still didn't make it. There was further bad news from France manager Didier Deschamps, who chose to leave out Eduardo Camavinga for what will be the coach's final tournament in charge. Camavinga endured a difficult second half of the season in the Spanish capital, and given he was already slipping down Les Bleus' midfield pecking order, it perhaps came as no surprise when he didn't make the final 26. France are going to the World Cup. Camavinga, one of the best young midfielders in world football just a couple of seasons ago, won't be part of it. When you step back and look at every name on this list, Lewandowski, Donnarumma, Osimhen, Lookman, Rodrigo, Estevão, Militão, Kvaratskhelia, Szoboszlai, Højlund, Šeško, Sanchez, Ekitike, Simons, Gnabry, Fermin Lopez, Mitoma, Palmer, Foden, Alexander-Arnold. You're looking at a combined total of experience, quality, and match-winning ability that would comfortably construct a World Cup winning squad. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is the largest edition in history with 48 participating nations, but even the expanded format could not prevent several world-class absences. Between shocking eliminations, dramatic playoff defeats, and a devastating wave of injuries, many international stars will not be present in North America. The most significant absences are divided between players whose national teams failed to qualify and stars ruled out because of serious injuries suffered during the final stretch of the European season. There are two distinct wounds running through this list. The first is the qualifying catastrophe, Italy's third consecutive absence, Nigeria's second in a row, Poland's penalty shootout gut punch in Stockholm, Cameroon tumbling out to DR Congo. These aren't just sporting failures. These are entire generations of talent. Donnarumma, Tonali, Barella, Osimhen, Lookman, Lewandowski denied even the possibility of making a memory at football's most watched stage. The absence of so many stars has once again reignited the debate surrounding the overloaded international football calendar and the physical toll placed on elite players. However, it also opens the door for emerging talents to take center stage at the FIFA World Cup 2026. The second wound is pure physical. Rodrigo goes down in March with an ACL. Esteban goes down in April with a grade 4 hamstring tear. Ekitike ruptures his Achilles against PSG. Simons tears his ACL in a Premier League game. Gnabry tears his adductor. Fermin Lopez breaks his foot. Mitoma tears his hamstring. The overloaded football calendar and the extreme physical demands of the modern game caused a brutal wave of injuries in the months leading up to the tournament, player after player collapsing in the home stretch of a season that never really ends. In a football ecosystem that never stops asking for more, every one of these players will watch the tournament. They'll see the tackles, feel the distance, track the ball into the net from thousands of miles away. Lewandowski, who posted time to say goodbye into the void of a stadium in Stockholm, who has given Poland everything he had for 18 years and still never lifted a trophy, will sit with the knowledge that this was almost certainly famous names missing the tournament in a story that will hurt deeply, particularly for the large Polish community in the United States, the very country hosting the final. Donnarumma, the goalkeeper who's been world-class since he was a teenager, turns 28 this tournament summer without a single World Cup cap to his name, wondering if the 2030 cycle is even possible for a squad that hasn't solved its fundamental problems yet. And somewhere in London, Cole Palmer, who scored in a European Championship final, scored in a Club World Cup final, who has proven he performs when the stakes are highest, watches England's group games and waits to see if Tuchel's bold calls pay off. Even with several major absences, the tournament is still expected to bring together the best available footballers on the planet and deliver one of the most competitive and demanding World Cups in modern football history. But the shadow of what it could have been, what it would have been, with Lewandowski running at defenders one last time, with Donnarumma making saves on the biggest stage, with Rodrigo and Esteban terrorizing World Cup defenses side by side, that shadow hangs over every match in North America this summer. 20 names, 20 different stories, one brutal truth. The World Cup takes everything and gives